might be my most prolific year at the LA Times in terms of everything that I wrote about, everything that I covered.
I think we know why he's
the awards, proclamation for Congress, I was like kicking ass in 2024, and yet I find myself completely uncomfortable. As much as I resisted even just having my name out there first on anything, the reality is I kind of run out of places to hide. Like, I keep next level. There is no next level for me. I've worked at basically every major newspaper, every major television station, and I've worked in all the major cities. The next level is just me.
You know, I've built a career looking at the intersection of sports. NBA gets it right. Culture. Because you wanted to check my black card. In politics. I see it as a reflection of this will continue to be an extension of that.
If the money's no good with the location.
To find a comedian who believes that,
Welcome to the LZ Granderson Show. Welcome to the LZ Granderson Show. I am your host, LZ. Today is Thursday, August 28th, and I need to give a huge, tremendous shout out to all of the fantastic people in the tennis community at ESPN. A huge shout out because the US Open is going on right now, and I am just always amazed at the level of professionalism, the execution, the finished product, obviously. And I'm saying that as both someone on the outside looking in, but obviously as someone who was once part of the team looking out. It's a monster, this tennis tournament. Dealing with the weather, whether it's too hot to be outside or it's raining and you have to figure out how to have content on air. And you end up spending a lot of time together, during those 2 weeks, especially when the weather's bad or especially when a match is shorter than what you scheduled for or have gone too long. And you start to build this sort of rhythm with each other. And it's through that familiarity with one another that you're able to navigate these sort of storms. But don't get it twisted. Just because it looks easy doesn't mean it is. They're busting their asses out there, and I'm watching the tournament, and I can't be more happy for what I'm seeing. So big shout out to everyone at ESPN Tennis who's handling things right now. And with that being said, I would like to now transition to today's guest. He and I were part of that team for a few years, and Patrick Mouratoglou and I stayed in touch. Even after I left ESPN, even after he stopped being the coach for Serena Williams when she retired. And that's because we had such a tremendous time talking with one another. Because there was no subject that was off the books whenever we hung out in the green room during rain delays or tape delays or whatever delays happened to be, and we had time to spend with one another. Picking the mind of one of the greatest tennis coaches of all times. And yes, I'm saying that because if you were at the helm of Serena Williams during that tremendous stretch, and then you back that up with some other tremendous stretches with other players, not to mention having the largest tennis academy in our entire continent of Europe, I don't know how else to quantify your legacy other than being among the greats. And so being able to talk to Patrick during those delays that I talked about and all those hours on set over the years really helped my game as a hack tennis player, but also sort of helped me understand the minds of a champion and the mind of competitors at that level of that sport. And that helped me as a reporter, that helped me as a writer, and it continues to help me as a fan. And so I hope as you're listening to our conversation and we begin to get a little bit into the weeds, into tennis, especially questions like, why can't men win? The American man win. We haven't won since Andy Roddick in 2003 at the US Open, coincidentally. When we started talking about what made Serena great, and when we talked about the moments in which she was more frail and what he needed to do to get her through that. I think just from a human perspective, you're also going to love just Patrick's personal journey. I got emotional listening to him at times because at moments it was quite painful listening to the journey of someone who was so painfully shy at one point. He thought the only way he can interact with people was first go through therapy. And it was, fortunately was through that therapy that he was able to blossom first as a human being, then into his own as a coach. And then through that blossoming, he went on to meet Serena Williams, and they had that tremendous run that I talked about earlier. So it's a fantastic conversation. I really hope you enjoy it. And also take the time to soak in some of that tremendous U.S. Open tennis. Hey there, Patrick. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I didn't see you for a long time. I'm happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too. I'm trying to think, when was the last time we were together? I know it was Wimbledon, I think. But I'm trying to remember, was it a Serena victory or was I consoling you?
That's a good question. I hope it was the first option.
Well, you know, I want to talk with you about obviously everything on the court, you know, both, you know, coaching Serena in the past, but also the players you're working with currently. But I want to go back to your very beginnings, because you've written a lot about your shyness as a young person. And you've talked a lot about your shyness as a young player. And I want to go to the very beginning, because I know a lot of people don't know this background about you. They just know you as Serena's coach. But you were a tennis player once upon a time, correct? A junior player?
Yeah, I was. I started to play tennis when I was 4 years old. And I always say that tennis saved my life because, as you just said, as a kid, I was not only extremely shy, but I was failing everywhere. I was terrible at school. I was always sick, and I was completely unable to connect with anyone because of an extreme shyness. And tennis was basically when I started tennis, I was 4. That was the only place where I felt worth something. And I think if I did, I don't know what would happen if I didn't have tennis. And also it was the only place where I felt validated. I was less shy on the tennis court because, strangely, I was feeling comfortable there because, again, I felt good at something. And every time I was out of the tennis court, it was the same. So tennis saved my life.
So at what point did you decide that the sport that saved your life was going to be the sport that you wanted to play for the rest of your life?
Well, in my mind, I was made to be a professional tennis player. I never thought I would be anything else than a professional tennis player. But my parents decided otherwise because they thought they didn't know anything about sports. My father was a businessman. He thought that was crazy risky to become a professional. So I had to stop when I was 15. And that kind of destroyed my life at that time. I thought, there was nothing else I wanted to do, and there was no other place I was feeling well. So that was very difficult. So the next 7 years were really tough. And slowly I came back to tennis, but not as a player because I was too old. And I decided when I was 26 that I would devote my life to tennis and help young players achieve what I couldn't achieve and give them the chance I didn't have. And that's why I started my tennis academy when I was 26 with really that goal. And I still have the same goal now, so many years later, because I'm 55 now. I still have the same goal and dream to help young players, again, give them the chance first, because I didn't have that chance. So I'm happy to give the chance to young players and help them achieve their dreams in tennis. That's what I'm doing for now quite a few years, 30.
Let's back up a little bit, because you mentioned, when you were 15, your father, who was business focused, had you stop tennis. How did you communicate to him how much you cared about the sport, and what did you do instead of playing tennis after that point?
When you really mentioned the most important, the communication, which is one of the biggest key in life. I didn't communicate well. I think, as I explained, as a kid, I was really struggling in communication in general. Of course, I was not shy with my parents, but I didn't have any experience in communication because I was not talking to people. So I don't think I expressed it well enough. And more than expressing, communication is also it's about understanding also the other person. So I didn't understand why my father, and I would say my parents, I don't want to put everything on him, why my parents were so scared about me, embracing a professional career in tennis. And if I had understood, I would have had the chance to make them change their mind, but I did not. So the only thing I said to myself was, "Well, they don't care about me. It's all about them. They don't understand me." But which was true, but they were not understanding me because I was not understanding them either. I think it was the biggest lesson of my life. And 10 years later, I realized that I was wrong to blame them because they loved me. They just didn't take the right decision, but because I was not able to convince them. And for me, it was a turning point, and it helped me so much in my job as a coach. And you hear a lot of coaches complaining about their player, that they don't listen, they don't do this, they don't do that. Yeah, but it's your job as a tennis coach, as a coach in general, not in tennis in general, to understand your player well enough to understand also their fears and the reasons why they're not doing sometimes what they should do, and help them do it. So that was really, really a turning point for me. And how did I cope with it? Really badly, because from one day to the other, I had no more goals because that was my only goal. I was not going out at night with friends like other kids my age. First, because I didn't have friends, so it helps, but also because I was really focused on tennis. That was my life. So from being focused on something 100%, from one day to another, I had nothing anymore. So I did probably all the stupid things that a teenager can do, which was good in a way because it helped me also understand what was important. It helped me also connect with others better. And I spent my time, my years, basically working on all my issues. I started to do psychotherapy when I was 17. It was my choice because I realized that I was stuck in life. Um, so in a way, whatever happens, it's what you do with it. It was very bad what happened to me. I mean, there are worse things in life, but for a teenager to suddenly have no more goals is a bit dangerous,
Right.
because you can go anywhere and do. Actually, I did. But in a way, I used it to prepare for my future, and maybe I would not have done it if I would have played tennis, and my life would have been completely different, maybe not as good as it is now.
How good were you as a player in hindsight? Were your parents right? Was it risky?
It's always risky unless you are top 3 in the world in your age group, and even for those players, it's risky because you never know what can happen. But risk is not a problem in life. It's your ability to deal with situations that is important. If you don't take risk, you get nothing anyway. So I think I was good. I wouldn't say I was great. I think I was good, but I think the most important is not how good you are, is what's here and here. And I think, and actually that's what my father said 15, 20 years after he got interviewed about me. And he never said this to me directly, but he said that he didn't realize how strong mentally I was, which I completely understand because my shyness was making me look really weak. So I get it. And honestly, I always have a little regret somewhere, but when I think about all the other things I did, I know I would not have done all those things if I would have been a tennis player. So, it's okay.
Did you two ever talk about it at all? About, that period of your life where, basically your dream had to be changed because of his decision?
No, of course we did. We did talk about it, and after that, he said it to me. He said, "I didn't know anything about sports, and I felt it was you had to be crazy strong, like a big ego, very strong mentally, and I didn't see that in you. And I think he was right. He was right not to see it. I think I had it, but I think it was well hidden, so I cannot blame him for not seeing it.
So,
And it was
so what
hidden.
changed?
It was
What
hidden
changed
behind.
for you?
Sorry.
What changed for you? You said at 26, so you're 15, your dream is taken away. You're 17, you go into therapy. You're trying to piece things together. But then you said at 26, something clicks. Did you go to college or university? Like, what happened? What changed at 26?
It's so maybe I didn't express myself well. It's not. I didn't have something clicking at 26. It's more than it took me 10 years to build myself and be ready for life. I think when you're ready for life, you're not scared to do what you want to do. You're not scared to start, because it's always the most difficult is to start whatever you have to do. You're okay if you fail. It doesn't hurt you that much because you understand that it's just you're gonna fail anyway a lot of times. And what is important is to keep going, and at the end you'll get what you want from life. When you feel confident, when you have all this, everything is open for you. And it took me 10 years to get there. I was a million miles away from there at 16, and I was ready at 26 because I did the therapy, which was extremely important because I needed to connect with people. If you can't connect with people in life, it's difficult to achieve anything. And I was not talking at all. I was panicking with the idea that someone would talk to me. So I was avoiding people. I was not looking at people in the eyes. That's how I was. And also I started to do things that were tough for me. All the things I was scared of. So not from one day to another. As I explained in my book, I started with very little things, but every day I was moving forward. And by doing so, you are building your confidence. And the more you achieve little things, the more you're ready for bigger things. So all this process took 10 years. And, if you ask me now, and I'm asked this question very often, what are you most proud of in what you achieved? And I always say, honestly, nothing. The only thing I'm proud of is to transform the 15 years old into the 26 years old. Because if you see me at 15, you think this guy has zero chance in life. Zero. And when I was 26, I was more than ready. And I know how difficult it was, and I know where I came from. So this I'm proud of. This, I think, is my biggest achievement, and will always be, whatever I do in the future, that will always be my biggest achievement.
In the United States, we're having a conversation about what is masculinity, what is manhood, where do men fit in modern society. What is the conversation like on the other side of the pond? Are you guys still having those Are you guys having those conversations in Europe like we are in the States?
Yeah, of course. I think it's global. It's not an American conversation. And I think in general, American starts trends or transformations of society. Trends too. Music, the influence of the US. I cannot speak for Asia, that I don't know as much, but in Europe, we are extremely influenced by everything that comes from the US. And I think all those conversations have become global. And I think the transformation of the society that happens now for maybe, I don't know when it started, maybe 10 years ago or something, is going in Europe as much as been going in the US.
What are the biggest shifts that you've noticed? You've been coaching, as you said, for 3 decades now. So you've seen a lot of changes, including masculinity.
Yeah, but I think it's a very complex conversation. I don't know how much we can get into it. I think the risk is to take away what men makes men and what women make women. I think we're very different. Men and women are different. Of course, it's not men are like this, women are like that. It's much more complex. People are not. Sorry to say it. I don't. There is. It's not black or white. My children are black. So, Uh, but it is more complex.
I got you, bruh. I won't let them come for you. I got you.
Thank you. Thank you. No, but it's more complex. But I think men and women are different because and I think even though it's more complex, and as I said, I think it's important to also understand what makes a man, what makes a woman. And I see it also in coaching. When you coach a man, you cannot coach a man the way you coach a woman. Otherwise, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Both ways. Women like to have their coach next to them. Men like to have their coach more behind and be the front person because of their ego. Of course, and even saying that there are differences because all women are not the same. I think Serena is more the front person, but all the other women I worked with were not. They were happy to have you next to them. So you have to. It's about understanding the psychology of people. I don't like generic things in general because again, everyone is different, and that's what's so interesting about my job is that you can never coach the same way.
I was going to say, you made a big point about that in your book. I think it was in chapter 7 on communication. You listed all of the different players from all around the world, including Serena, obviously, but, many others, Marcos Bagdatis and others, Rune. And you made note that they're all from different cultures. They all speak, different languages. And you come from all these different cultures, and you were able to communicate with each and every person, regardless of gender, regardless of where they originated from. If you were able to summarize that for the listeners right now, what are 3 key elements of your mastery of the skill of communication that you could share with us?
Well, I'm going to answer you, of course, but first you mentioned the language. But even if you speak the same language, the words don't mean the same for you and for me. I mean, actually, I'm not native speaking, but even if I was native speaking, I'll give you one example, very simple to understand for everyone. You live in London or you live in south of France, and you say, today the weather is nice. If you live in London, it means it's cold, but it's gray, but it's not raining. If you live in south of France, it means it's very hot and there is not one single cloud in the sky. It's the same words. It doesn't mean the same, whether you come from London or you come from south of France. So this is a very simple example, but you have to understand what's behind every single word deeply. This is what understanding the person means. You have to know where the people come from, what family, what is the culture of the family. When I say culture, I'm just talking how you were raised as a person. What's the history of the family? It's people are very complex, and if you don't get all the elements, you cannot really communicate well because you're using words that maybe don't have the same exact meaning for the other person. When the person says something, you think you understand, but you understand with your definition of the word, not his or her. So this is what communication is about. It's really, and if you want a few keys, first listen, number 1. And I always say this because I really believe it. It's more than listening. And what I try to do with players is not listen to what they say, but it's to hear what they think, which is completely different.
Explain.
You're talking to me, I listen to what you say, but I understand with my vision of the world, with my words. So I completely twist what you think, what you're saying. I understand it completely differently from what you really mean. So hearing what people think, it's understanding really the words behind. It's knowing you well enough to know that sometimes you're saying things that you really believe. But as we are social people, we don't say the truth, and we don't say the truth even to ourselves. And it takes a lot to really hear what the people really thinks and not only listen to the words. So that would be number 1 thing. Listen. First, listen. Second, put yourself in the shoes of the other person. Like immerse yourself in the other person's culture, And when I say culture, I'm not talking about being African American or French. And you know that African American is not American; it's different culture. Or French, or depends where you come from, or how you were raised, what the history of your family. It's understanding everything about the person. This is what putting yourself in the other one's shoes means. And I work, as you know, I've worked with Serena, and Serena doesn't have the same culture as Naomi Osaka, who has a Japanese background. So it's completely different. The way they think is completely different, and sometimes they might use the same words because they live in the U.S. and they use the same words, but it doesn't have the same meaning. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't do that, you will never really understand the person, and then you're going to make in coaching a lot of mistakes.
What was your biggest mistake with Serena? We've mentioned her a few times. If you had to go back and think from a coaching perspective, was there any piece of advice you gave her in a moment, or an approach to a match that didn't work out, and had results that you weren't hoping for?
Well, there are two things that come to my mind. One is a failure because it didn't work. Of course, she had incredible years, and I remember between 2015 and 2016, she won 4 Grand Slams in a row, but not the same year. But 4 in a row. U.S. Open 2015, Australian Open 2016, Roland Garros, Wimbledon. All those 4 in a row, which is an incredible achievement. And then she plays for to win the U.S. Open, which would be the 5th in a row and 4 the same year. And she loses in semifinals to Roberto Da Vinci, which was a big surprise.
I was at the match.
Sorry? You were at the match?
I was at the match, yes.
Yeah. So this, I didn't feel, it's incredible story because she was supposed to play the day before, and the day before she was ready mentally 100%. And it rained. So the match was postponed the next day. And I remember I was waiting for her at the stadium. When she went out of the car, I could feel the stress, which was completely different from the day before. I don't know what happened during the night, but I was not able to change that. And she didn't handle the match the way she should to win. And then it hurt her a lot, this loss, so much that because of this one, a lot of other losses happened in the following year. And she was not herself. Like, Serena is the biggest competitor I've ever seen in my life. But this defeat against Vinci hurt her so much that she was not the competitor she used to be in the next month. And she's in the final of Roland Garros, but she's not herself. Like, she's winning the matches because, I mean, her level is extremely high, but mentally she's not Serena. And before the final, I think if I don't reconnect her with herself, she's going to lose this one, because she lost the Australian Open final just a few months before against Kerber. Then she lost in Miami. I mean, things that were not happening usually. And before the match, I said to her, I'm not going to give you the brief for the match, but I want you to remember who you are, because I think you forgot. And I tell her personal story. And that was one of the strongest coaching moments of my life, because I spoke for 15 minutes telling her whole story, and she was crying while I was speaking. And I was so proud after. I thought, wow, I think I reconnected her with herself. Now she remembers how incredible she is, how special she is, how a champion she is. And she started the match really well, but again, it came back to before. And I was so disappointed after the match that it didn't work. And actually, I think it worked, but afterwards, because 10 days after the match, she calls me and she speaks to me in a way that I know it was Serena talking to me again. Incredibly confident. And I remember I was with someone working with me, and I turned to this person after the call and I said, Serena is back. She's going to win Wimbledon. And actually she did. So she was back. So this defeat at the U.S. Open, where I didn't really find the words to put her really back to who she is. And then the 8 months after, I didn't do well to reconnect her with herself. I didn't find the words. I didn't find the way.
There was a strategy shift too, as I recall during that match, because Serena won the first set, from a scoreboard wise, pretty comfortably. But then I believe Vinci started hitting the ball shorter, started drawing her into the net a little bit more. And it felt as if Serena was in some sort of cycle that she couldn't get out of. Was that your experience watching the match as well? Or am I, oversimplifying things from the outside?
No, but I think you're right. I mean, she played several times Vinci, many times actually, and she never lost a set before that match. So I think the pressure went to another level because obviously the semifinal and potentially the final were the two most important matches of her career at that time. She would have achieved the Grand Slam, the 4 Grand Slam the same year. I mean, she was already a legend, but she would go to the next level. And once all the favorites lost, she had to beat Vinci and Pennetta to win that Grand Slam. And
Right.
I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, there were a lot of players that were supposed to be much tougher than them. And
Right.
I think it put extra pressure. The pressure was already extremely high and difficult to deal with. And the fact that everybody lost and that she was playing someone she never lost a set to, I think it brought extra pressure. She won the first set, you're right, and I think the score was quite easy, but even in the first set, I could feel she was in a stress level that was unusual. And I think when Vinci started to do the drop shots and brought her to the net and bim, 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 I think she panicked. She really panicked. And I think this state of panic, she never found a way to get out of it until the end of the match. That's why she lost this match, because of her emotional state that was a bit out of control.
What's your favorite championship moment with her? Was it the first?
I have to say first for sure, because at that time she didn't win a Grand Slam for 2 years. When we started to work together, she said, I want to win one last Grand Slam because I think I'm getting older. I'm getting old. And she didn't win for 2 years. And she was not thinking as Serena thinks usually. And I felt it because I didn't know her very well before we started to work together, but I've always been the biggest Serena fan, always, as many people. It's nothing special, but I mean, I studied her so much because I was fascinated by her mindset, which I thought was the ultimate mindset of a champion. I always thought so. When I started to work with her, I was not disappointed about this, but yeah, I always thought so. So the way she was speaking, I was thinking, this is not Serena. And she reached the quarters. I think it was the quarters or the semis in Wimbledon, not playing well at all, being overstressed. And I had these words in quarters. She was playing Kvitova, if I remember well, which was a great player at that time on grass, probably one of the most dangerous. And I said to her, okay, now we start to play the tough matches. And I didn't meet Serena yet. Can you introduce me to Serena? I would like to see her.
You said those words to her?
Yeah. I said, I want to see Serena. Can you please show me Serena? Because I didn't see her yet. And she smiled and she really liked it. And the day after, she was different. And then she won. And to see her happiness winning this Grand Slam, which was the 14th, actually, she looked like it was her first one. Unbelievable happiness and joy, and that was incredible. And the second one was the first Roland Garros, which happened the year after, because it meant a lot to her, because it's a tournament that she was really struggling to win. She won it only once 10 years before, in 2002. That was one thing. She was chasing this one really badly. Second, she beat Sharapova in final, so it had a special taste also. And for me, as being a Frenchman, Roland Garros was the tournament that I was dreaming of as a kid. Was the only tournament that I could see on TV. We had only 3 channels when I was young. So that was the only tournament I was seeing. And for me, it was the tournament. So to win Roland Garros was really special. That was the 2.
That is absolutely remarkable, especially, the fact that Roland Garros meant so much to both of you for very, very different reasons. One,
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, but I have to say that also. My first Roland Garros as a coach, the final was on my date of birth.
Oh my gosh. That is awesome.
Best present in the world. Unbelievable. The final this year was exactly on my birthday.
That is
Crazy.
Amazing. Absolutely. Do you guys, do coaches get replicas? What do you guys get? Do you just get Instagram pictures? Do you get anything after besides a check?
No, the coach gets nothing, always. Actually, Roland Garros is quite tough because, the trophy is nice, but then you get a trophy like this big to win Roland Garros for the player that he can keep. Crazy. Like the US Open trophy is like this.
Right.
They keep at home. The Wimbledon one is like a golden thing, unbelievable, displayed in gold. And Roland Garros, they give you a little trophy, just like you won the tournament of the next street. That's crazy.
Well, in all fairness, out of the 4, it is the smallest one from a square footage perspective. So maybe that's what it's about.
That's a good symbol. If it's a goal, but I'm not sure about it.
Why can't we win a championship? And by we, I mean American men. You've coached Serena Williams into, solidifying her legacy as the greatest of all time. You've coached Tsitsipas, up to the top 5. Rune, Baghdadis, one of your first players, made it to an Australian Open final. Why can't our American men get there?
You know what? There is a very, very simple explanation about that. That's mine. I'm not saying, but I really believe it. The problem with American players is that the best athletes, they don't go to tennis in the US. They go to American football, NBA, baseball, because they make 10 times, 100 times more money. And there are so many more guys who make a great living out of those sports, which is not true for women. Because women's tennis is one of the best sports for women in terms of recognition, in terms of making a living, in terms of everything. So the best athlete probably in the US, on the women's side, they go to tennis, where the best athletes, don't go to tennis. So there are exceptions. I think Ben Shelton is an incredible athlete, but yeah, it's an exception. Most of the guys, they would go to other sports. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but tennis is not a big sport in the US. You guys are much more.
It's not a big sport. In fact, it's actually losing a little ground recreationally to pickleball, which is very upsetting to me personally. Just get that out there. I was very upset about this pickleball fanatic, but it's taking over courts, public courts. You can see them. That municipalities all around the United States are using either basketball courts or tennis courts to set up pickleball courts. And so you can see that it's losing ground even on a recreational level, but there's still a level of prestige globally to playing this sport, to winning, top titles. So the allure financially, I think, is still there, even if you do make more money contractually in the United States. Is it just economics, or is there a cool factor too to tennis that maybe is missing?
How much, I'm not American and you are, so you're going to answer that question better than me. How much recognition do you get in the US if you're a great NBA player compared to a great tennis player? First,
I would
second,
say,
go ahead.
I would say the last American man, Andy Roddick, that was somewhat of a cultural phenomenon that won a championship, was on par with any of the NBA players, with the exception of probably Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, right?
Okay,
but he won. But
Was number one.
he won.
I'm talking about a very good basketball player compared to a very good tennis player, but not a champion. How much recognition? day and
Yeah,
night.
yeah, you got to win. You got to. We don't really do second place here in the States. We don't do ties in second place, so you really got to win
Okay,
to
but
break through.
if you're a good basketball player playing for Miami, but not a great one, you're a superstar in the U.S.,
Right,
right?
right.
If you're number
Yeah,
30 in the world in tennis, an American, you're nobody, right?
right,
I mean, you're not
right.
nobody, but you can't compare. But there's another
Right.
thing. How many the number 100? Let's say if there is a number, but there is no number. But let's say number 100 basketball player in the U.S. How much money does he make
Yeah.
compared to number 100 tennis player in the U.S.? Doesn't even He's losing money every week. So
So you're
to make a living in tennis, you have to be top 100 in the world. To make a
right.
great living in any U.S. sport, you can be maybe number 200 and make a great living. So
So
it's the economics you can't compare the economics.
so you're saying if we strictly found a way to infuse more cash money in the winning of tennis, that the 10-year-old young man in Cincinnati, instead of picking up a football or a baseball bat, decides to pick up a tennis racket because they can make $25 million if they win this championship.
I think that's one of the it's not the only one, but it's one parameter for sure. I would say the second one is the prestige. Like, I think the kids in the US that like sports, they want to be basketball players, or they want to be football players, or because there is the prestige in the US. I don't think tennis brings the same prestige if you're American. Now, if you're French or Italian, we don't have those sports. I mean, we have basketball, but basketball is small compared to tennis or football. I mean, soccer, sorry. So I think that's the main reason. Actually, many more people go to soccer in Europe than tennis, because soccer is more prestige. Like American football or NBA is more prestige than tennis, and I think that's the reason why. That's the only reason, because probably the American athletes are the best athletes in the world. Imagine if they would play tennis from a young age, you guys would win everything. Like on the women's side, look at Serena. I mean, she
But
was probably
we used to
and
win
Coco now
everything.
she's the best, and Coco now she's the best athlete on the women's side. I think at the moment she's by far the best athlete, like Serena was the best athlete also. So I think that's the main reason. Yeah.
America used to win everything when tennis was too expensive for everyone else to participate. But since the competition has gotten more global, our footing has slipped a little bit. Is this a permanent position for us, you think, because of the economic dynamic that you're talking about? Or is there a chance the pendulum swings back and the sport gets a jolt of light because Francis, breaks through at this year's U.S. Open, or Taylor Fritz, our top player, finally gets over the hump and beats one of those top guys like Sinner or Alcaraz?
I mean, I think it's the same for every country. When you have champions in one sport, the kids want to play that sport. I think at the moment, the fact that tennis is dominated by Europeans, I mean, doesn't give so much excitement to young Americans to play tennis. If tomorrow Ben Shelton starts to win a lot of Grand Slams, then I'm sure then there will be a generation of Americans that will be extremely successful, because a lot of kids will be also more excited to play that sport. So I don't think it's permanent. I think in every country, any sport needs champions, because young people identify to those guys and it motivates them to go to that sport.
You've mentioned Coco Gauff. She wrote the foreword to your book, Champion Mindset. When did you start working with her? And is she destined to be an all-time great, or has she still has some space to grow?
So I started to work with her when she was 10 years old. She came to my tennis academy that was in Paris at that time. We moved to south of France since then, but to just be tested and see if she could be part of the program. And I was shocked by her potential, by her personality, by her potential. She had the three things that for me are the most important if you want to be a top player: incredible drive, incredible drive and belief in her ability to become great. That was extremely strong for someone so young. Athletic capacities that were way above people from her age. I think she had incredible potential, athletic potential, and actually she showed it. And competitiveness. I mean, put her on a court, make her play a match. She's a beast. And I mean, she won Roland Garros only thanks to her fitness and her competitiveness, because she was dominated, but she never gives up. She's an incredible competitor. If there is one hole that small, she'll find a way to get there. And yeah, so she had those three qualities. So she won 2 Grand Slams already. We forget that she's so young because we know her for many years already, but when she started to play on a professional level, she was 15. So she's still extremely young. I think she still has a big room for improvement. So
Where?
many aspects of her game. I mean, definitely on the forehand side, everybody knows. She can improve a lot. Aggressiveness on the returns, but she did improve already, but there is still a lot of room for improvement. She's probably the player who's defending the best. She was defending a lot before. Now she's counter-punching more than defending, which is great. I think it was something that she needed to improve, and she did. But she can still improve on all these things. It's not like from 0 to 10, of course not. But when it's from 8 to 10, it makes a big difference. So I think she improved a lot also in tactical, on a lot of tactical aspects, how to move the game to her best side. Those things she does much better than in the past, which explains also why she won already 2 Grand Slams. So no, she has a lot of room for improvement, really. So. And she's working, so I don't doubt that she's gonna win many more.
There's been a lot of different women to have won a championship, a major championship, since Serena, actually since Serena first left after winning the Australian Open and being pregnant and giving birth to her daughter Olivia. There's just been a rotation of different women winning majors now. Is that good for the sport or bad for the sport?
In both cases, people will complain. So when there's a lot of
difference, do you like as a fan, not as a coach, not as a player, but as a fan, because I assume you love watching the sport as well. Do you prefer it when there's a big three, like we had on the men's side, or do you prefer when anyone could win?
I personally prefer when anyone can win, because I think there is much more uncertainty and it's more exciting. I mean, for more than 15 years before Roland Garros, I was asked every time, okay, who do you think is going to win this year? And I said, well, you asked the question. The only thing we don't know when Roland Garros starts is who Nadal is going to beat in the final. That's the only thing we don't know. So, of course, it's extremely impressive. What he's achieved is unbelievable. But as a fan, I don't think it's very exciting when you know the result already would you watch a match when you know the result already? You don't even watch. What you will like in live sports is that we don't know, and anything can happen. So I personally prefer, but I understand. I also enjoy to see the rivalry between Alcaraz and Sinner, because the level that they produce is so incredible. The Roland Garros final was one of the best final of all times. I mean, not only in Roland Garros, I think one of the best final of all times in terms of level, in terms of suspense and uncertainty, and like anything could happen anytime. And actually, that was crazy, the scenario. We had everything in that match. So this is also exciting. But I like uncertainty, and that's what I like. I think that's also why people watch sports. So even though you have a big two at the moment, because they're way above everyone, I mean, just look at the results. It's quite clear. When they play each other, you never know. And even though Carlos won 4 in a row against him, the fact that Sinner won Wimbledon for me now, it's a different story. And again, everything can happen. And actually, they're so close in terms of level when they play each other. All the matches are so tight. That's exciting. Yeah, and on top of it, you have a crazy level of play, crazy. So with a physicality that is also unbelievable. So that's so beautiful to watch when you love tennis. I mean, I can't wait for the final.
Are you anticipating that's going to be the final, or do you think that there's an opportunity there for someone who's been playing great this summer, like Ben, who just won his first Masters 1000?
That's exactly what I was about to say. I say if there is two guys that can make this not happen, the final between Alcaraz and Sinner, it's potentially Ben, because he's improving so much. He's improved so much. He won a Masters 1000 just 3 weeks ago. So he has the confidence that comes with it. He's such a unpredictable player. Like when you play him, he can do anything, anytime. It's difficult to play, and you can see it when guys play him. And Novak, because Novak is Novak, and he's the greatest on the men's side. And yes, he's probably struggling a lot with motivation because he wanted to become the greatest, and now he is, undoubtedly, because he broke all the records. So he's struggling for motivation, but it can click anytime. And if the motivation is here, he can move mountains. And we saw it when he played the Olympics. He wanted it so badly. He beat Carlos in the final. So when the motivation is here, so you never know with Novak. I mean, before we knew all the time. Now we don't know, but we can't count him out.
Is it fair to say that, when we look back on that time period where it was him, Roger, and Rafa, and to a lesser degree, Andy Murray as well, but certainly that those big three have more than 60 championships among the three of them. Absolutely bonkers. But clearly, Novak of the three is the least beloved. Do you think time is going to be kind to him and help smooth that over? Because as it was happening, and I was at a lot of these matches, I was at a lot of these finals, particularly with him and Roger Federer, and it's just clear that people had an affinity for Roger more so than him. Do you think time is going to be kind to him?
Yeah, I think so. I think first of all, the fact that he was beating those two guys that were loved so much by everyone played against him. Like, we don't want this guy to beat our favorites. Roger, Rafa were at the top of the game before him, and they were superstars, loved all over the world. And then this young guy comes and starts to beat them, and is a bit different. He's a bit arrogant. That's how he was perceived when he was younger. And so that played a role. I think you're right. I don't know if you remember because you're young, but when
we're the same age, Patrick. What are you talking about? I appreciate it though. I just use cocoa butter, brother.
My beard is way wider than yours. So no, but I remember McEnroe. McEnroe was not liked at all, and he became one of the most liked person in tennis. He's a superstar. Everybody loves him. So with time, but again, there was a rivalry with Borg that was loved also, and he was having this behavior on court that people disliked so much. And the more they knew him, the more they liked him. And I think something similar is happening. It already started with Novak, I think. People get to know him better. Now the two other guys are out of the picture, so there is more focus on him as being the only one that represents the older tennis, the previous tennis that people liked so much. Mm-hmm. So I think that they're also getting to know him better because there is more space for him also. There was zero space for him when Rafa and Roger were there in terms of popularity.
Last question for you. Obviously, Novak's a GOAT. Roger and Rafa are going to the Hall of Fame. We'll see what happens with Sinner. We'll see what happens with Alcaraz. But when it comes to coaches, though, it seems as if your case has been made for Hall of Fame status. It took forever for Nick Bollettieri to get in. We'll see what happens when it comes to Richard and Richard Williams. Do you think you deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame?
I never thought about it because I'm not so much into these things. I actually don't like this kind of celebrations, to be honest. I didn't like this whole thing about Rafael Roland Garros. I think he won 15 Roland Garros. That's his, he will always stay as probably the biggest, the best clay court player of all times. Do we need those celebrations? For me, it's unnecessary. That's my personal thing. So, but in your question, there is also another question that I hear, which is how much do we value coaches? And tennis has always been the worst sport in the world to value coaches, and I always thought about it. I think the recognition of sport of coaches in all the other sports in the planet, and US are great for that. I think you guys have so much respect for coaches in all the sports. I don't think we have this culture in tennis. And I think it's very unfair that a lot of guys who are doing an incredible job, a lot of them, and I don't think they get the credit they deserve. So for that reason, I think, I think this question was also in your question. I mean, that's what I understood. The fact that we were not able to do our job during matches, and we were basically told, okay, get there, out of the court, and be quiet. I mean, that was, for me, so much disrespect for coaches. And there is a culture in tennis for coaches not to speak. I mean, I think a lot of them struggle to speak also because historically, in their upbringing as tennis coaches and because of the culture of tennis, you're supposed to be quiet. And I think things are changing now very slowly, to my opinion, but I don't want to complain because there are changes. So that's already a good thing. I think we should go much further, but it's changing slowly. But yeah, I don't think there is enough recognition for coaches in tennis. Yeah.
And I remember, I wrote pieces in favor of Nick Bollettieri as well as Richard Williams, talking about their impact on the sport. I think obviously Darren Cahill right now has a very strong case, but it just seems to me that if the person that we consider universally to be the greatest of all time in the women's game came to you and says, I'm not sure how much longer I have, and you guys have the run that you have, that your name belongs in a short list of coaches who should be in the Hall of Fame. That's my 2 cents, maybe 5 cents. We'll see.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's, I mean, first, I've been lucky to cross paths with Serena because, whatever great job you do, and I'm not saying I'm doing a great job, but whatever great job you do, you need to have the player also to achieve it. Not everyone can be Grand Slam winners. So that's why I'm saying a lot of guys are doing a great job, but they also have players that have a more limited potential. Of course, as a coach, you have to be able to help player be better than they've ever been before. That's your job. That's your mission. That's why you're hired. But you also have to have the right player. So if I don't believe in luck. I think she also came to me for a reason. She chose me. She could have chosen somebody else. But also I owe her a lot of what I've achieved as a coach. And, I'm still old, but I still have a few years before me. So I hope to do more. I want to do more. I want to win more. And I'm still learning because I think you're learning all your life. Every player, you're learning so many new things because everybody's so different and there are always solutions to find and it's so exciting. So I hope I'm going to do much more.
So too.
You mentioned Richard Williams, so I just want to say a few words about him.
Sure.
because I know him well. I spent a lot of time with him. I think there is only one Richard Williams in the history. I don't think he had enough credit. Of course not, for many reasons. One of the reasons is because he was not a tennis player. And I think tennis is very conservative for that. If you are not a tennis player, you cannot be a good coach. A lot of people think like that, which is completely wrong, by the way, because there are a lot of other things you can trigger. And on the mental side, he was one of the most incredible guy I've met. He was so smart. He was, as a tennis coach, because he's still alive, thankfully. But as a coach, he was really, really unique. And what is achieved, nobody had ever achieved something like this in the history of sports, to take two kids and to make two number ones in the world in probably the most competitive sport for women in the world. That's the most, tennis, maybe golf, one of the two most competitive sports in the world. To make two number ones in the world, not coming from a tennis background, I think that's unbelievable. And I think a lot of people should have tried to understand what he's done to be able to achieve that, rather than to, criticize him. And the story is funny. I take 2 more minutes, but I didn't know Serena at that time. I didn't know her. I mean, I knew her as a player, of course, but I didn't know her personally. But 2004, there is an article in French newspaper L'Equipe, which is the sports. There's only one newspaper. Is a big criticism on Richard Williams, comparing him to the coach of Justine Henin, and saying the coach of Justine Henin is incredible, and criticizing him. And I knew the reporters, so I called them. I call the reporter and I say, I don't know how you can write something like this. I mean, I respect the coach of Justine Henin, but he's worked with one player, did good results, for sure, great results. But we're talking about the other guy who took 2 kids and brought them to both number one in the world. How can you dare criticizing this guy and saying the other guy is greater? This makes no sense. Year later, they decide to do something big on Richard Williams. And the L'Equipe magazine, and the magazine calls me and they say, can you please do the interview of Richard Williams? I say, why you call me? I'm a tennis coach. I'm not a reporter. They said, yes, but we want someone who understands what it takes to be a coach, to help us understand what he did. And I happened to do it, and I was very excited to do. And that was incredible. Because all the things he told me was unbelievable. And I think the article was great because of what he gave. And that was my first relation with the Williams family through Richard in 2004.
Wow. So 2004, you have this conversation with Richard Williams. How did you end up having a conversation with Serena Williams that led to you becoming her coach for a decade plus?
I mean, actually nothing. After I coached women, other players, and they played against Venus or Serena. And so I was on the other side of the court with Richard, and we had some really tough moments, by the way, because he's tough. He's a tough guy. He did some crazy things.
Did you guys talk smack to each other, like during the matches or like before the matches? Like, how does that work? How do tennis coaches talk smack?
That was. I had one that is funny. Was in Dubai. I was coaching Pavlyuchenkova. She was very young. I started with her. She was 16, playing challengers, and a year and a half after, she was 27 in the world, and so playing Dubai, and she plays Venus. And I was thinking, of course, I know Venus. I've seen her play 100 times, but I'm going to go to the practice. Maybe I'll see something interesting. Maybe she doubts on something at the moment, or I don't know. Maybe I can pick up something. Anyway, I mean, everybody practicing, and everybody can watch. I go there and I sit. Richard sees me. He comes to me and says, "Get out of here." I said, "What do you mean?" "You can't watch the practice." I said, "What do you mean? We're at the club. Everybody can watch. It's not private. If you don't want me to see, go to a private house. But this is public. Get out of here." I said, I'm not moving. He went to take security people to take me out. So I couldn't watch the practice, which was completely illegal. So the security comes to me and said, "Sorry, sir, you have to get out of here." I said, "Why?" "Because he wants you to get out." I said, "I don't care." They said, please, he's going to make a scandal. Please get out of here. So I left. And the day after, Serena crushed my player 6-love, 6-1. Oh, sorry, Venus.
Did you learn anything watching practice or no?
I didn't have time. He got me out. As soon as he saw me, he took me out.
Do you think he said something to her to make sure that result was the result, or was it just by chance?
No, I think, Venus played incredible, honestly. This match, my player was crying after the match, and I say, what did you cry? What do you cry? You didn't touch one ball. What are you crying about? You were serving, she was winning a return, and she was hitting an ace. There was no match. So, she just showed you where you need to progress, but, there is no regret on that match. You never lose that badly. Only someone like Venus or Serena can kill someone that way. She looked like a junior, and she was 27 in the world. So, yeah.
Did you learn anything that day?
That my player needed to progress on the serve, so otherwise she would get crushed on every return, and that she needed also to be more aggressive on every opportunity on second serves. Otherwise, you dominated.
Did you learn anything about Richard Williams that day?
That he was preparing the matches. He didn't want me to see what he was doing, which was good. We definitely have to prepare the matches and have a plan and repeat the plan before the match. So that was great. And after I worked with Serena, I knew I realized also how tough he was. But as a person, he's a tough guy. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a tough world also. The world was much tougher for him, being black in a white sport, being raised the way he was raised in the U.S. at that time, which was very racist. So, his life was tough, so he had to be tough to survive in a way. So I can't blame him for that. When I started to work with Serena, the start was really tough, also because he was against me, which I completely understand, by the way. And he was testing me, and we had some really, really tough moments. But I think after that, we had a great relationship because we went through that also. I really like him. I always liked him. I just didn't want to have him against me. That's it.
He didn't like you when you first was Serena's coach. Did anything change in your relationship with him when you and Serena became more than friends?
It changed when Serena started to be extremely successful because, again, she had 2 difficult years before we started. And after that, I think he was my number 1 supporter. And that makes him really special. No, really. Because in this sport, it's very rare to see parents who are supportive to the coach because they're scared to lose their space. So most of them are playing against the coach. And he showed a completely different face. And when he did this, like an incredible supportive face, and even I remember one time it was tough between Serena and myself, and he was supporting me like crazy. And maybe he could have come back to being Serena's coach, and he fought for me. And I thought this guy is really special because he's thinking about Serena's results before thinking about himself. And trust me, in this world, this is really rare. So, and then I thought, there's no surprise that he was so exceptional because he's not like everyone. And he's supporting, he will do anything for his children, even if it's against him, which is really special.
Goes back to the definition of what it means to be a man for me.
Everybody has a different definition, and there is no definition. No, but there is no definition.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah,
Patrick,
I have a lot of respect for him, 100%.
Patrick, thank you so much, brother, for your time. Really, this has been an absolutely joy. It was funny, you and I, as I said earlier at the beginning of this episode, we met in the green room at Wimbledon, and I just remember you just constantly exuding this high level of confidence that was undeniable every single time you walk into the spaces around the grounds. So to read your book and to hear your story about you being so shy, growing up, talk about two totally different personalities, two totally different stories. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, and my shyness was just because I had the feeling that I was worth nothing. My self-esteem was the lowest self-esteem you can imagine. So that's why I'm saying I come from a long way, and I'm very proud of that. Um, yeah, and I think when you start life, when you're confident, when you dare, but everything comes with confidence. And actually, that's the start of my book. You need to build your esteem and your confidence. Once you have that, if you're ambitious and you're ready to work, you can achieve anything.
Amen.
It really starts with that. So, but I remember very well, and I miss those days at ESPN when we were working together. It was really fun, and I love that you brought us perspective also from other sports to read tennis. That was very interesting because all the commentators, we were all tennis people. So it was very interesting that you would bring also the culture from other sports into tennis.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. It was fun.